Joining us live in studio, Adil and Chabileng, a Transform RSA president. In studio, we have Oliver Dixon, socio-political commentator. Good evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us. Oliver, because it's the first time we engage with you, I'll start just your observations with the ANC policy conference, primarily with the proposal of having two deputies, how this is going to play out.
You know, it's always been my view that if the ANC doesn't get its act together, it just has to lose 9% to fall out of power. So South Africans have to prepare themselves for the idea of a coalition government anyway. But within the ANC itself, we need to start getting into an attitude of understanding that power is not an absolute thing, that power can be shared amongst different institutions, that power can be shared amongst different people. So the power sharing deal, I think, is sort of a bargaining plea that's coming about right now. I think sort of is maybe 8 years too late, but it's perhaps a necessary one. Whether or not those are the two right camps to want to have the deal with is a different question entirely.
Yeah, and this is unity at all costs, because as you're saying that this could lead to the demise of the ANC if there's another splinter party. Do you agree?
Look, I certainly do agree that there will be a power shift. Which way and which direction it goes is a totally different thing. In terms of what the ANC has attempted to achieve, it's not yet a practical solution, because there still has to be processes by which the debates have to start as to who's going to do what and how is this process going to unfold. At this stage, there is just a proposal that says there must be a power sharing within the party, and within that power sharing, you are looking at an aspect whereby you are going to have candidates now subjected to a process by which they will be then vetted correctly, and out of the vetting process, the ones that actually appear to be the most popular will eventually emerge. In this case, we know there's already two popular candidates that have already started literally rallying up and started campaigning. But as to whether they will eventually become presidential material, we don't know. At this point, we can only assume.
Yeah, but is it going to be practical? And Oliver, your observation that one, it hasn't been precedented, and secondly, the ANC find itself in crossroads, probably the most difficult time in the history of the movement.
Look, yeah, this has certainly caused splinter sort of camps within the movement. For instance, especially for young people, it's important to recognize that 65% of South Africa is sitting under the age of 35. So that means the bigger part of our electorate are going to be young people. For the first time ever, a majority of the electorate are going to be young people ever. So we have the youngest electorate ever. So now you ask, which sort of way forward is best to attract the young voter? The question here is, where is the young voter support going within the sort of the conversation going on in the Youth League? The Youth League hasn't reached a consensus. Maybe leadership has, but that sort of proposal that leaked, I guess, received a lot of backlash as to say, how is that the sort of leadership you want to support when absolutely no one in that list that you suggested is under the age of 35? So the sort of coalition that needs to come together needs to put at its epicenter the young voter.
Yeah, but I mean, it speaks volumes that the president of the ANC Youth League actually objected to this particular proposal.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's no coalition within the ANC. The agreement to say that the loser of the presidential candidacy becomes the deputy president is an arrangement to say, instead of splitting the party further, instead of having a further division within the party, the aspect of unity must prevail so that there are no longer factions, but it's a divergent group of individuals and people rallying up to actually gain political support within the party. That's one aspect. 2017 December will determine the presidency of the ANC. But 2019, it's a different race that the ANC has to run. So going to 2017 December, the ANC has to start between now and December, really make a serious introspection. Is, for instance, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma the candidate for the party? Is Cyril Ramaphosa the candidate for the party? Those questions must be raised. Are these people talking to constituencies and the electorate that is going to be voting for them? And are those voting electorates going to agree with the candidates that the party is choosing?
Yeah, but it will be a tumultuous kind of relationship because of the different ideologies. We've seen the more pragmatic stance from Cyril Ramaphosa when it comes to radical economic transformation. And on the other side with Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, essentially, preaching what the President and the NEC proposed in the January 8th statement. So, Victor, Oliver, sorry, where do you see the two ideologies cohabiting, or do you see more friction there?
Leaders who follow ideology have always ran away from the ANC when they lose, when their faction loses. So Bantola Misa ran into Tony Leon's corner, Ruth Mayer's corner back in the day. He was followed by Musiwa Likota, who lost on an ideological battle, and he ran and started cope and left with 4% of the ANC's electorate. Julius Malema was dissatisfied and ran away with an additional 7% of the ANC's electorate. So if the question is, I am almost certain Cyril will continue politics within the ANC. If he loses, he will continue as normal and try by all pragmatic means to sort of impose the policies and changes he envisioned. I don't think Nkosazana Dlamini will stick around if she loses, if her camp, because that's an ideological battle that she's fighting. She's bringing an ideological sort of shift in her approach, where Cyril is continuing the party line as it's been standing all along. So
was that the party line, though, or was it just the watering down of the party line? Because if you check historically, I know we're arguing about the existence of white monopoly capital, but the fact that transformation and economic transformation at that had always been at the heart of what the ANC's constitution and mandate is. So I beg your pardon. So I'm just saying, do you think that the ANC has shifted from the application of the mandate, or whether it's an ideological shift? I just want clarity there. Excuse me.
I think nothing Cyril Ramaphosa speaks about is any different to what's currently in the NDP, right? So if you're supporting the NDP, then that's probably the leader you should be supporting. But if you think the NDP is not going to change anything, then you probably shouldn't be supporting Cyril Ramaphosa, because you can't expect anything more than what's in the NDP within his sort of campaign. With Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, it's unclear what her ideological direction will be, but it's certain at this stage that it's a little different to what the NDP is speaking about. So the conversation here is about the redistribution and the flow of wealth within the country, and how that's going to shift, what the percentages look like, not what the slogans look like, what the actual percentages look like in terms of wealth distribution.
And there has been that criticism that radical economic transformation has, or rather we must caution that it doesn't become just sloganeering or electioneering, that it is something that can be implemented. And out of the two leaders, if we were to use a comparison format, which one seems to be more suited, I guess, in driving that particular agenda?
At this stage, both leaders haven't come out really clearly supporting the call for a radical economic transformation. But there is already a clear indication where Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma comes from, that she has taken a very strong stance to say she's going to look after the interests of the country and the people, and delivering on really the key needs of the people. On the other side, you have Cyril Ramaphosa, who has made a pronouncement and made a U-turn in the whole process and denounced the aspect of radical economic transformation. And now they started talking about other policies, inclusive and all of those things that are World Economic Forum-based policies, which are not really directly addressing the South African challenges and situation. From a Transform RSA point of view, we are monitoring the situation very closely. We are monitoring the developments, and we are part of the National Conference of the ANC in terms of policy conference to observe and give input as to where things should go as a direction. We're a civil society body that supports the policies that are very progressive within the ANC, and that is behind the movement in terms of understanding how we can correct the plight of the young people, particularly, who are the most affected in society. Joblessness, unemployment, and again are affected by the scourge of HIV/AIDS. How do you take them out of that situation and bring back the issue of addressing poverty and scarce skills that they don't have? So those are the kind of issues that we want a leader that is going to be able to address the current fundamental challenges facing South Africa.
All right, on the line we have Udo Fruza, independent political analyst and columnist, and we have Zola Koboshiane from the Black Empowerment Foundation. Zola, thanks so much for your time. Just your observation whether this is the only, I suppose, magic wand or the glue that will keep the ANC together, having a compromised deputy, should that person not succeed as president?
Yes, I believe the proposal is very positive in nature in terms of giving the platforms to the branches to work on. Because as the branches, I think the president has given the branches the platform to work on and things to think about. However, the branches have to take decisions, to be involved and participate in decision making. So whatever that is happening, they will understand from the root that what were their decisions and what were deliberations. So they'll understand all the processes until December. So when they vote informed. The only position that the ANC has to take now is to go to branches, educate people, give people political understanding, and the mandate is clear. It's radical economic transformation, that is number one. Number two is to develop the country and make people to participate in the economy. So when people have that and understand that, they will monitor, assess, and see that this is the direction. But this approach that the president has came with and the proposal is a compromise solution that says, should anything come, but at the end of the day, the ANC should be united. There mustn't be divisions, there mustn't be issues, but the ANC must move forward. Because the factions are delaying the process. We're busy chasing each other instead of chasing the economy and transforming the country and go where we want to go. Because these factions has a lot to do with the issues of interest in economy. Some, they want to drive economy in a way that is not proper and balanced, and some, they have got good intentions. But during the engagements within the branches, things will be clear, people will be clear, people will understand. And I call all the members of the ANC, I think it's proper for now to participate and engage, hence they've been in the platform, and come out with a solution that is firm, that is strong, that gives the direction to the organization. And I think that will give us a solution in the country. Because the problem at hand is economy, and in the economy, people are not participating.
Yeah, please stay on the line. Sorry, just to get a response from Uda Fuza, independent commentator. Is this, in your view, the best way to quell or to deal with the enemy within that we've seen have been the splinters or even the factions within the party? All right, Zola, we can't really hear you very well. I think Udo is not with us at the moment. Sorry, you were saying?
I'm saying since there are issues of factions within the party, do you hear me now?
Yes, yes, much better.
Yeah, since there are factions and issues within the party, the only way to resolve them is to ensure that from the branches' point of view, people are participating and clear, because the mandate is coming from the branches. When the branches are clear, when the branches are understanding what is happening, since they are the ones who are appointing leaders, leaders will know that they will never do as they wish, as they please, because branches understand and they are clear. They will see it easily and fast when the leader is out of line, and they will call the leader out into order, because the power lies with the branches, but the branches turn it the other way around. They become now people who are betting from the leaders, and some of the leaders, I must say, they take advantage and they do their own thing. So for the leaders to follow whatever that should be done, they must listen to the people who appointed them.
All right.
But they cannot say and address the leadership if they don't understand the positions, the policies, and the mandate of the organization, and even the goals that we want to achieve. That the organization wants to achieve. That is our position as a PF. We need the branches to participate, and they must look at the proposal as one of the solutions going forward.
All right, let's try again with Udo Fuza, independent commentator. Udo, I hope you're with us. Just on the compromise power sharing proposal, we know it's going to go to branches for further ventilation. But the point is this the master stroke, if you will, by President Zuma, distancing himself from power because his term comes to an end in December, but essentially saying, for the sake of the organization, try and find ways of working together outside your differences?
Well, good evening. I must just observe quickly that Dr. Skhosazana Dlamini Zuma is very popular. She was backed by the veterans, she was backed by the ANC Women's League, she was backed by the ANC Youth League. Now, would it take an ANC by surprise? I don't believe so. Hence, the proposal to have two vice presidents or two deputy presidents, as there will be a lot of horse trading between now and the end of October this year. And the lobbyists have now entered everything as always, and they're completely crazy here. This would be there could be a safer way for the corporates, they believe, to keep Ramaphosa in the run for president. It's also the way of the corporates to get rid of President Zuma in order to secure Ramaphosa's ascending to the presidency, or so they believe. At huge amounts of money, and the corporate world believes to make it. Whether it will truly be like that, time will tell. It's somehow doubtful, though. I think Dr. Skhosana Dlamini Zuma would be the strongest contender for that position.
All right, let's get a reaction from our panelists. Oliver, your view on whether so far NDZ17 appears to be the most stronger contender. And what do you make of President Zuma's commitment, if you will, that he will personally go to branch, door to door, and try and lobby for this particular proposal?
Look, at the center of it, it seems that it's still a tight and even race between the two candidates if they were to go head to head within the elective conference. The more important question, though, that President Zuma will be having, the questions he'll be facing at branch level when he does that sort of tour, is simply going to be this. Because the question with people who are disheartened with the ANC is questioning the ANC's relationship with capital in this country, how the ANC behaves in terms of its business conducting with the private sector, but even how it conducts business within itself. It can't still be that South African Airways is spending $39 billion rand on white-owned businesses and only 80 million rand on black-owned businesses, right? Those are the numbers that they put out 3 weeks ago.
Compliant, not necessarily black-owned.
Right, and that's the situation. So how do you change your attitude in how you do business with the private sector, and how you give certain companies certain leeway, and how do you change your attitude within yourself to allow more people closer into that pie? Because 39 billion is a lot to go to only white-owned businesses.
All right, so that's the litmus test and what the leaders going forward, depending on who takes deputy or president of the ANC, is in the detail as to how the economic redistribution is going to take shape going forward.
Yeah. And the reviving of the economy. We are currently in a reverse cycle within the economy. There hasn't been growth. Interest rates are too high. You're having the income exposure way less. People are being laid off in terms of works and jobs industries. And you're having a situation where the economy is not yet taking off. So the leader has to come in within this space and juggle with these real issues. They're not imaginary issues. They're not issues that people are making up because they feel that they must have an opposition in power so that there could be a change. No, the ANC has to define itself now with regards to the current crisis faced in South Africa. For instance, we know the popularity. It's already confirmed within the party. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma is the most popular right now with regards to her position in how she's going to be attending to issues relating to, one, empowerment of women, aspects of making sure that the economy can be attended to, and she is a highly credible candidate within the party. Cyril Ramaphosa, on the other hand, is the one who confidence is in him from a capital as well as a market point of view. So these two debates has to actually start emerging. But President Zuma's work now will be now to make sure that as he has driven the National Policy Conference to a unity basis, he must bring back the message now to the delegates as well as the branches in bringing about that unity space.
Yeah, but Oliver, in 30 seconds, we can't wait until December or even 2019. There's certain differences that the party can make while they're in government to send that clear message that they are committed to the radical economic transformation, or at least equaling the playing fields.
Branches, one, need to have a conversation about shaping leadership that includes young people in this country. First of all, you can't go to an electorate where the country is 65% under the age of 35 and not have any of that represented within the leadership. Secondly, how are you going to empower black businesses to do more business with the state? And when I'm talking about black businesses here, I'm not talking about little catering tenders for companies. I'm talking about large-scale in the case of SAA, aeronautical sort of tenders. How do you empower black businesses in that instances, and in particular black African businesses in this instance? And that's the sort of conversation that's going to be had.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Much appreciated. That's Ideal Nchabeleng, a Transform RSA president. Joining us also Oliver Dixon, a social political commentator, and Udo Fuser, independent political analyst, and Zola Goboshiane, Black Empowerment Foundation member on the line. Thanks indeed for joining us. We're back after this.